again, I still struggle with the we call the meeting to order or not, because it's
Three of us.
three of us. All right. All right. The main thing this week is to talk about just to go over some of the stuff we talked about last time. So I did reach out to I think it's Dan from the recreation department.
Mhm.
And it turns out they are in fact still inundated with requests for garden space. So and he gave me another name, I think from the town. Give me 1 second, I have to go grab the note from my calendar.
Before you go, according to the agenda, you do have public participation listed, and we have a Julie on the line. I don't know what Julie that
Yes,
is, but
I'd love to speak.
so I hold it before you speak, Julie. Stefan, are you
Okay.
in the agenda? Yeah.
Thank you. Public participation, did you want to was there any particular topics you wanted to discuss?
Yes, I did. Let me see if I can turn my camera on. Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay. I've been watching a ton
Oh,
of
sorry, Julie. Again, name and address for
Julie
record.
Scott, 4 Central Street, Wakefield.
Thank you. Sorry.
I've been watching and getting caught up on a lot of the subcommittee meetings of the Environmental Sustainability Committee. And I strongly feel that I don't want to see too much encroachment upon the territory of other town boards without really bringing them to your meetings and you going to their meetings. And it's unfortunate that the Conservation Commission meeting is tonight and it's hard for you to be in 2 places at once. But when I'm concerned about seeing so much subcommittee work. As far as the public gardens, there was a $50,000 earmark from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. It was a state grant that we got in 2019, and there were 2 public hearings in December of 2019 and the last one just before the pandemic in 2020. There was a ton of debate. Lots of thought was put into the placement of the gardens, especially the aesthetics of the area. We didn't want it near the lake. Personal safety of all gardeners was a very important factor. Water sourcing, the ground type, they didn't want it too marshy. Available parking for the people using it, lighting for safety, and these were just a few of the areas of discussion. More grants would definitely be needed. In 2019, the public hearings were held in regard to what the public wanted instead of what the town council had first come up with. So getting a lot of input as far as placement is very, very important. Neighborhoods were very prevalent in the discussion. A lot of ideas were shared. It's really important that members of all town boards, especially if you're not from Wakefield, if were brought up in a city or in another town, all town charters and city charters are very different, but they do have some similarities. In the town charter, the Wakefield Recreation Commission is in section 5-8. They are they evaluate program activities, formulation of all overall plans for the program development, and they schedule all town parks and fields. Please meet with them and meet with them often. The Conservation Commission is also mentioned in our town charter. They should be met with first, not circumnavigated. The powers of these 2 commissions must start with them. Please don't work around them. I had a hard time watching this subcommittee meeting a couple weeks ago because I felt like you guys were circumnavigating without coming to the meeting with enough information. The Conservation Commission is also has legislative authority, Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 8C. So they have real power. They issue permits and other commissions and boards do not. So if you could just keep that in mind, I'd appreciate it. As I was thinking about the meeting, during the last meeting, various members mentioned the Hayworth House. It's really the Hartshorn House, which is Wakefield's oldest publicly owned building. It's thought to be the town's oldest home in its original location by the lake. Part of the house actually dates back to about 1681. Members also mentioned Maplewood Park often. I believe you mentioned meant to mention Maple Way Playground. Under state law, the Conservation Commission is charged with certain areas of work, especially the trails. The trails would be best done by asking to be put on the Conservation Commission's agenda. We also have a town park in Greenwood that we voted for at a town meeting and a townwide vote. I believe it was in 2002. It's Arundel Avenue, and it's just waiting for the town to do something. We had a huge election after a very raucous town meeting, and nothing's been done with that land. I would love it if you guys would get on board with that. I can send you some information from the Wakefield Daily Item about the town meeting that was held and how much the land cost the town, and then the town election that was forced because some people didn't want it. It won resoundingly in both elections, and I would love for someone to start action on that. So when we talk about the town council is really where you go to talk about first, all the parks and the streets and sidewalks. So they, along with other parks and the recreation department, would be the ones to discuss if you're talking about planting in any area of green space anywhere in Wakefield. Trees, Dennis Fazio and the Forestry Division, he has trees. I know that they had mentioned a number of months ago that he's got a lot of trees and actually doesn't have a lot of people to plant them. So Dennis Fazio and the Forestry Division would be a huge help. I want to be honest, when I was listening to the retreat meeting or trying to listen to the retreat meeting in January, I could barely hear anything. I almost saw nothing. The sound and audio was muffled and barely existent. I'm assuming that's when all the committee work, the subcommittee work was formulated. I'm finding it really hard to follow all of the work of the Environmental Sustainability Committee because of so much subcommittee work. In 2024 so far, you guys have had 29 meetings. You have now a green space subcommittee, a community engagement outreach subcommittee, waste reduction subcommittee, green business subcommittee, climate action subcommittee, environmental sustainability committee itself. And in 2023, you had different committees. Last year, you had just under 50 meetings. In 2022, you had 27 meetings. In 2021, there were 11 meetings. And in 2020, there were 13 meetings. It's really hard when I watch the meetings. I don't have a list of the subcommittees. I don't know what member is on what subcommittee. I don't know who's in charge of the subcommittee. And I can't find information when you guys are talking to each other and you're looking at your screens or you've got something in front of you, the audience does not. So if we could work on that, it's much easier to follow along when we've got packets and such. I know the school committee is pretty good about doing that, as is the town council. The first retreat meeting, again, was difficult to watch. It's important that people can hear at every meeting, even if we can't see, we should be able to hear. On tonight's agenda, there is no mention of voting to ratify the meeting minutes from the last meeting, from your last subcommittee meeting. There's no mention of taking attendance. That's usually on an agenda. There's no pledge of allegiance. That's usually on most agendas. The boards are also encouraged to run meetings in a similar fashion. So if you do what I did when I was on the Sweetser Lecture Advisory Committee, I would go and I would look at like the town council agenda or the planning board's agenda, and I would copy everything right from there. So just take a look at other town council and school committee agendas, and it's super helpful. I look forward to seeing the Environmental Sustainability Committee streamline a lot of their work and their subcommittee work to get back to really meeting together. I don't hear a ton of discussion and good vivacious argument and breaking apart ideas. When you guys come together as a whole group, I hear very short summaries of what I saw as really much more in-depth meetings. And I don't feel that all membership would come away with enough information to be able to summarize another subcommittee's work just by basing it on what summaries are presented. It's been 6 months of an awful lot of subcommittee work. And if at this pace it continues, you guys are going to have over 60 meetings this year. And if you have so many meetings, then apparently you feel there's an awful lot to do, but the public doesn't have any of your information to look at while you're doing it. So if there's so much to do, please share the paperwork and the packets with us so that we can follow along. So thank you very much for all you're doing for volunteering for the town. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Julie.
Stefan, do you want to take attendance per Julie's suggestion?
Um, again, this is back to the roll call process and what is the order of ops that we want to run these meetings, because I'm happy to call for attendance. Right now, the committee consists of myself, Lillian, and Robin. So what's the right format for this, Robin? You're usually the person.
I mean, sometimes that people, you say the name and the person identifies as saying present. Of a committee of this size, I don't necessarily know when the requirement is, but
well, I think for members of the committee, if you're here, please speak up. Lillian,
Here.
Robin,
yes. Yeah. Another of her point was we are required to approve meeting minutes. So so they can be put into the town record. So we'll have to do that for the next one.
so what I'll do is take an agenda item for the next meeting to finish recompiling my notes from the previous meeting, and we'll put those on the agenda. Okay. Any other public participation? Sorry, before we go further. All right.
We have some.
So moving forward, then the question and really in the goal of right now, what this committee is about is figuring out the purpose of the committee. And I don't think we've elected a direction, and part of it is to actually figure out the right order of operations in order to ensure that we're engaged. As such, reaching out to the recreation committee was the first thing that we had talked about. The same thing with the trail program, and so this week the idea was just to discuss the outcomes from those brief interactions. I'm assuming that we had myself and Robin, and to determine the next steps from those discussions, which is, do we want to directly engage, or do we want to explore alternatives? So regarding the garden, my direct contact with Dan McGrath, he basically told me in particular to reach out to Maureen, who is the counselor regarding the recreation committee. I have not had an opportunity to do that yet, but the idea was that she is looking at alternatives for adding plots to the town, regardless of where that is. My assumption is that our role in that is only supportive in the event they want to do that, but it's to essentially give a continued or further the voice of the committee in doing that. So what I would imagine we would do is reach out to her directly as a council member, and first understand where they're at, whether or not they're just exploring options, if they've actually in fact made any plans. It may be that it's not financial feasible, which is also something I'd like to understand. as Julie just mentioned, there's this other park that's apparently sat, or at least it was earmarked as a park, that is also an opportunity for us to engage with the town to look for alternatives. So ultimately where we're at is there is a couple of opportunities for us just in the parks orientated in the gardening space to engage with the town. Whether or not we want to go further than that, and that's really what we would talk about next, which is there's other thoughts I have related to the climate action subcommittee, and whether or not we want to engage through that committee as opposed to this committee in order to look at things like canopy cover and stuff like that, which we would probably be able to get some information from the municipal gas and light. So really that's where I'm at right now with this. Is I've talked with only one party. There's some direction on next steps, and I would look for this committee to say how much we want to engage and how aggressively, if that's the right word, to follow up with them. So that's the open discussion.
I support the plan to support others who are doing, so it's great to hear that maybe more the rec and with Maureen looking for potential, and that we could just be another avenue to advocate. And if there's, tasks that overlap, but yeah, I didn't get I didn't expect for us to be the prime on it, given that it's really
No.
others, but it's the support through the mission of the sustainability committee, because it touches so many folks in different ways, in a positive way.
Right. Oh, I mean, in the very least, I think the committee represents, let's call it labor that can be brought to bear. I mean, we're talking about people that regularly volunteer for activities within the green space, whether it be through the green the waste
Reduction.
things like that. That are, they're not really so much our program, but they are programs that we look at as a sustainability thing, and we want to support in order to continue to grow sustainability within the community. So to me, this is just another version of that, which is we don't have to be the primary, but if there's no support for the program, growing it or otherwise, then we become that support, right? That's the idea.
That makes sense. What did you say the contact was for the gardens? Maureen?
The
you?
last name is, I don't want to mispronounce it. It's Butt.
Oh, okay.
And so I believe she took over as counselor in the spring this year.
Okay.
No, she's been a counselor for a number of years.
But this specific
Her role, maybe if they changed assignments.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So the only reason I didn't go forward with that is I've been just super wicked sick. So
Oh no.
Oh yeah, it's been wonderful. This has been the greatest month of my life. So I actually have a full intention to continue on the conversation. What I wanted to do was at least within, again, part of the challenge is knowing the right is there a process for this, or is it just reach out and just, hey, we're part of this subcommittee, we only want to work and support this thing, we're just trying to gather information at this point in time, which is really what we're doing. So
Yeah. I mean, that seems appropriate. Like, we want
it
to
could
be
be-
involved. How can we support? Where do you
Yeah.
need assistance type of thing?
I mean, if they need to find funding for any kind of expansion of the program, I mean, they could be talking a year anyway, just to get a grant and to do anything with it. Unless they're already underway, in which case, we just want to be a little bit of hands and feet to help them with whatever implementation, unless they're going to just contract it out, right? I guess. So a lot of discussion there.
And I would say if they say that they're having lengthy conversations in some other meeting, I imagine you guys are like me and not, necessarily aware of all the agendas and topics, then they could just tell us, hey, we don't want to repeat ourselves, go watch this video. I mean,
That's
you know,
true. Yeah.
so be respectful of their time, but you know,
Sure.
they should let us know if we feel like we're,
Right.
you know, making them do things twice.
Right,
We're
exactly.
just asking questions to understand better. I think that's
Right,
Yeah.
that's
fine.
right now. We're fully in a discovery phase, right? And again, we kicked off very late this year, so right now we're just in the discovery phase. So so that's that topic. So there is a seeming through just numbers, there are more people signing up for garden plots than in fact there are plots available. There is already some sort of initiative to look at that, and so that would be considered a valid avenue for us to continue to do research and support the town. So that's really the end of that topic. Robin, you had reached out to go ahead.
Yeah, I reached out to Judy Green as the point person for the Wakefield Trail Steward program. She confirmed that they do have folks that have signed up to be official trail stewards, and they are taking care of the Holland Road / JJ Round, the Maple Way, and the Spring Street Park trails. She then went on to describe what they were. What she didn't answer was on, you know, which get, you know, where there are gaps, and so forth. So, I also was thinking that, you know, either us and or the education subcommittee, you know, she didn't ask to see if they need more promotion of this effort of the trails. So maybe that's how we can help them is, I mean, she only listed 3 trails. I imagine we have more than 3 trails. So, what can we do to, you know, promote the program that's already was, a lot of thought was put into it through conservation as well as folks from the previous environmental committee members. So it's great to hear that, you know, there are trail stewards, but it sounds like there is opportunity for more ways to support the trails we have.
So do we again, in terms of engagement, do we want to is there like a conversation we could host? Do we want to bring them into this discussion and just have or go attend? I don't know if do they have like a standing thing as well that we can attend and ask questions or anything like that?
You know,
Or-
I don't know because it's not, as far as I understand, not a committee standing task. It's her as an administrator, I think.
Okay.
But she has joined sustainability committee meetings before.
Okay.
And she said she'd be happy to talk more. So, you know, I'm happy to keep the conversation going, inviting her to here or to the big committee, whatever we think is appropriate.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the sake of first of all, I don't think we've as a subcommittee sort of made a path yet, and I would rather I don't know, if I was doing this in like a business context, I would first make sure I have buy-in with the people, the stakeholder, and then figure out something we would actually want to bring to them versus just have her give a general, like, here's what the overview is of the Trail Steward program. And so my thought would be to first have a discussion. We don't have to have it in the, I mean, I guess, does it, again, back to procedural questions, does it have to be in the context of the committee meeting? Because we could have I could happily have just a one-on-one discussion with her. Independent.
One is fine. We can't have majority because then it's seen as a unofficial subcommittee, and then it has to be open meeting law. So yes, any one of us can call Judy and talk to her.
Okay, so I think that's what I would want to do is volunteer just to have that conversation. All it is, hey, you know, you have the trails, we understand that you've got stewards, you know, where do you need more support in, and then discuss like if she has any opportunities that she's looking for that we could aid for, whether it be, you know, another mouthpiece through our I mean, Tiana's community outreach is pretty fantastic. And, you know, do they want to advocate or have us advocate on their behalf through our community outreach. Or, I mean, literally it could just be, we don't really need that. Like if and give them the final, like, hey, we've got all our people and we do all this stuff by ourselves, so we don't need it. Again, it's more of a community outreach thing and not so much of a, green agenda. And then if these two are, let's say we can engage with them, we can really only support one or two programs. That would kind of be the,
Bandwidth, yeah.
and then that would be what we do for maybe the season or the year or the summer, whatever the time frame is that we want to do that. So, okay. Are there any other items for discussion, or do we want to explore any other, the other things we had talked about last time were bat boxes, again, as a concept, not, to gauge engagement with the community. And then the B person that Tiana was already discussing for some other outreach. To me, these things are very green spaces oriented. That's more about the green nature, if you will. And so do we want to explore just working with Tiana or the community outreach program to just align with her on those things?
So I sit on that committee with Tatiana. It's the two of us. So I can say that the Bees Happening is actually scheduled for later this month and it is sold out, but we do have a waiting list and it will be recorded. So
okay.
I encourage folks that are interested that weren't able to get tickets to watch the recording, and then, maybe it's, it triggers us asking for the person to do a second round. We don't know yet, but
Okay.
we're very excited. I was starting to put posters out and she goes, well, actually turns out we're sold out. So
That's great. That's really awesome.
so we're just going to promote the recording and so
Mhm.
forth for now, because that's the
Okay.
library's capacity.
So then directionally, that's already set. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's best, but I'm glad we helped them. And then, but it sounds like they're all set on that topic. And then, so if we want to do something with, and I would say if there's any interest in the town for a bat oriented program, I think that's the other place where, it's again, from a sustainability perspective, the bat populations are at risk in general. There's a couple that are not, but it really depends. But I know in this particular case with bats, they can be a nuisance, and by giving people an alternative relationship with them, you can both help the community, help the green spaces by helping to grow the bat population, to control insects and things of that nature. And then also get them out of your house, which in some cases is a problem. So and so that's, if you look at that in conjunction with things like parks where there's lots of trees where you could put boxes very high up in the air, it becomes a potential thing that we could explore through the recreation department and the conservation committee, because I don't know if they have a stance on bats today, but it's another place for us to go do some research and validate our understanding.
Yeah, I think actually it complements the bees very well, because
I
there's
think so too.
from an ecosystem, they're highly valuable. The Stone Zoo actually has bees in their,
Bats.
they
In
have
the-
bats.
Yeah.
I wonder if they ever do presentations similar to the bee one.
That's
with
a
the
good
bats.
question. I wonder.
Or
might-
if they can't bring a bat out of the zoo for whatever reasons, although fruit bats are pretty harmless, right? I wonder if they have an engaging presentation they offer to communities that maybe we could,
That's a good
look
question.
into.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So I'd be happy to poke around in the what opportunities there are for folks to come talk to communities
Yeah.
about bats.
okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
I can help with that
I'd be
too.
remiss if I don't mention your t-shirt, Stefan.
Yeah.
It was totally planned, I'm sure.
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay.
I mean,
Stone
if
Zoo's a
it wasn't
good
the Stone Zoo, I mean, do you know folks that, have you ever sat through a presentation related to bats or the value of bat boxes that?
I have, but it was many years ago and it was given by a park ranger. So my first thought was park rangers, but I don't know if there's anyone in this neck of the woods that would kind of do that thing. Because
You mean like state park rangers?
something like that. I
Yeah.
mean, this woman worked at like Carlsbad Caverns National Park where they have a huge bat population. So
Yeah.
not really accessible to us here, but like I wondered if, there was some state park ranger or something, but I think Stone Zoo is a great idea. That's
And
probably a better place to start.
my similar experience was in Costa Rica, not directly. here.
Yeah.
We're gonna fly the town to Costa Rica.
Yeah.
So, okay, so Robin will reach out on that topic and I'm gonna do the follow-up for sure with, Maureen and, the, on the, garden plots. And then, since you opened the conversation with, Judy Green, Robin,
Mhm.
are you comfortable setting up, I would actually just invite her to this meeting, to again, discuss the needs of that particular group. And we'd be happy to, if they have a meeting, we could attend that meeting instead, but if they're not, then we could just invite her to this, 1 month hence and discuss, anything on that front, if that works, unless we want to do something sooner. Or if you're comfortable brokering just introducing her to me, I can handle it from there.
Well, I just sent you by email the short email that she responded to mine.
Okay.
So you have the name of the trails for record in case
Okay.
you didn't catch it as I rattle them off. So,
Yep.
well, once we establish our next meeting, I can pose it her attendance and see what goes from there.
Okay.
If she can't, then I think one-on-one, but
Perfect. Okay.
if she's able to, I mean, I think there'd be a benefit to having an open meeting with her. So,
Okay. All right. And then from there, that was the last open item, the open discussion item that we have. Do we want to formalize those as like our primary topic items for next discussion? I'm trying to get better at this, so my understanding would be, I had item open discussion because that's really where we're at. Sounds like we're formalizing on, the garden update, the trail update, and now the bat update, and that will be our
Mhm.
topics for next time. And then plus the meeting meeting notes review from the previous two, and then and that would be it.
Mhm.
So is there a motion to close basically at this point, unless there's other topics, matters not anticipated? Okay.
I'll just take the opportunity to remind folks that the Festival of the Lake is Saturday and that we
Mhm.
will have a table. So we encourage people coming to talk to us about their concerns, questions. We will have some information, about town's recycling policy, composting, and so forth. But it is an opportunity for anyone to engage with us without the Zoom camera and so forth.
Good reminder.
Okay. Does anybody,
I'll motion to adjourn,
I'll second that motion.
and then you have to roll call.
all right, Lillian,
Here.
or is it yes or no?
Yeah.
It's-
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And Robin,
Yes.
and I'm yes as well. So thank you everybody for your time.
All right,
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Bye.
Bye.